Yes, studying at Trinity was great. I'd always heard a lot about Trinity College, but had never really been there. I think I visited the campus maybe 20 something years ago, but I really thought it was one of the most beautiful campuses I'd ever been on. And I actually like the fact that the center was not totally on campus. You had to go, for me, I had to go through campus to get to the center where we had our classes.
The campus itself is so beautiful, and I think that really it impacts you when you're walking around, when you have to go places to be looking at something that's very aesthetically pleasing, that's so full of history.
We don't need to compete for any library to be seated in the library or anything else. We have our own space, which is in the basement at the center. So when we have all the books that we need, they're available to us to do the quizzes and for research. So this is actually very, very good. And it's also a place, of course, it's a place in which we have to study, but it's also a place that we can meet each other in order to plan our next steps, in order to evaluate our work, to have even our social gatherings of sorts, to discuss books, etc., films, which we often did.
The library at Trinity is actually amazing. There's so many resources available, and it's such a massive library that really anything you need, you're very likely to find.
So as far as clubs and societies go, we were really spoiled for choice. Trinity is such a huge university that you can find people with an interest in almost anything.
Lots of services for students. I actually, did, gym, taekwondo. There was lots of different activities on campus for students.
Yeah, Ireland is very interesting in that it's not geographically that big, but Dublin, being so central to the southern part, really affords you a lot of opportunities to go just about anywhere in Ireland and out of Ireland. You have the airport there as well, Dublin International. So traveling is very easy, even though it's an island. You can really go just about anywhere, leaving from O'Connell Street in the center of Dublin. So that was something that we really enjoyed as students there. It's very affordable to travel, and it's very readily available. There are many programs, many tourist groups, or the locals.
I love Dublin. It's a great city. It's a diverse city. It's a vibrant city. It's a very walkable city, which is great when you're a student. The campus is central to everything. And Trinity College itself, again, it's one of those storied universities you hear about. You never think that you're going to study there. And so for me, like, to be, walking the hallowed corridors of Trinity College was just more than I ever thought I would do.
It's a really lovely city. Everybody is very nice, and the campus is very centrally located. It's very easy to get around on public transportation. There's a lot of shops. Anything you can need, you can find very close to campus.
Yes, the advantage of being in Dublin too is that you're just a short flight away and a cheap flight away from many interesting places. So myself and some of the other students, we went to, took a trip to Scotland during the midterm break. Really great to do little day excursions to, Howth or, some of the other, seaside communities, just, not too far away. So living in Dublin is great if you're a student and on a student's budget. I found it was pretty good.
Applying to the program was very easy. It could be done entirely online. Obviously there's pressure because you're applying to Trinity, but it was very straightforward, and the website, the course website has a lot of good resources to sort of help you work through that.
I had already done a Master of Arts degree, so I knew what that entailed. I'd never done a Master of Philosophy degree, and I actually can't say I know anyone who had, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect with a Master of Philosophy degree. And but what I actually found is that it was a really good balance of theoretical and practical. So we had, courses on the history and theory of translation, and, courses where we dealt with, translation problems, from poetry to theater to other genres.
The course is a very good balance between theoretical and practical aspects of translation. So you spend your first semester on the theoretical part and the second on the practical application, and that's also, of course, when you begin your portfolio and dissertation.
But then we also had classes where we, got to deal with the issues that translators face in the workplace, using technology. And we also had lots of, practical exercises in class where we got to work with our respective language pairings.
The modules they offer and the teachers the professors who teach them are very approachable. They're very engaged, and I found the discussions and the topics to be very rewarding, very interesting. And they ended up helping me sort of decide what to do for my portfolio and for to sort of supplement what we had been learning in the.
Sometimes people can get a bit afraid of Trinity, and I know that I have heard from other people that some courses are quite stiff and quite ruled by traditions still, but the MPhil in literary translation is absolutely not like that. The teachers are all very approachable, very nice, and because there are so few students, it's a very welcoming atmosphere where you don't feel afraid to express yourself, to ask questions, and I think that works really well, because in the end the students end up having a better academic, social, personal relationship with each other, but also with their lecturers and professors.
You have a lot of chances to engage directly with the professor in any given circumstance, and I found that to be very welcoming and very helpful.
In the year group that we were in, we were lucky in that there were only 8 of us, so it was a nice, small, cozy group. We all got to know each other very well, we were very comfortable, and during class we also had everyone had lots of time to express themselves, to ask questions, and to really gear the classes toward themselves so they could get the most from them.
We are good friends, but also we can rely on each other to help us whenever we need some help on academic papers or translation. For us who are not native speakers, as myself, it was very important to ask Connor and Jeff and Amanda can you just read this paragraph? Can you check if my grammar is okay? If I could make it better? So this collaboration was very important to all of us. But I think for us who are not native speakers, it was especially good.
So for myself personally, I did not have a lot of formal knowledge of what translation studies was going into the program, but I had an idea that I wanted to translate. I wanted to take my love of literature, my love of languages, and make it a practical skill I could use, and also, figure out how to parse it in my own brain. And the program really helped me do that. It allowed me to get not only a clearer picture of what translation studies is, but also what it can be. And the many different ways that you can go about translating, and the many years of research and experimentation that have gone into translation studies as they exist now. So the course does a very good job of giving you a history of those developments, as well as honing your practical skills.
So I think the creative side of things is probably one of the biggest pluses on the course, at least from my point of view.
You're told exactly what is expected of you, and that really helps you leave room for your creative processes, which makes it a very rewarding experience, because you can use it to sort of figure out how best you translate.
We don't translate just texts and books. Also, we can do subtitling. We can even go from one media to the other. So you are transforming a play into a script. You are transforming prose into a poem. So you can do these kind of things, not just the translation from one language to the other, but on formats as well. I think this was very exciting to do.
You have this community of people centered around this building who all have this pretty niche interest in translation. And then, of course, with all the events that are run bi-weekly, sometimes even weekly, you get all these other people in who share the same common interest. You get to speak with them, share experiences. When you are a student on the course, you get practicing translators who come in, you can connect with them, you can network. And as you say, the the center also has partnerships with certain publishers. So it's really nice to have this base from which you can build, because as we know, translation is nearly all about connections. You can't translate a book unless you know someone who wants to publish it, or you know someone who wants it translated. So I think the center functions as this nice hub where people with this interest in translation, no matter whether it's a more theoretical, a more practical, a more professional interest, they can come together and they can work at what they love.
For the MPhil, you have two requirements in addition to your coursework, which are your portfolio, which is a collection of 8 to 10 translated works of your choosing, and the dissertation, which is either a theoretical body of work or a translation and commentary, testing a translation theory that you put forward. So there's a lot of choice in both of them. They can be very personalized, and they allow for a lot of opportunity to explore your own interests, as well as to sort of, as our program director put it, do things that you would not normally be able to do in the publishing world. So you have a lot of freedom to really experiment and push the limits of not only practical translation, but what can be done with theory and how it can be applied.
The portfolio was a fantastic part of the program, I felt. It was probably my favorite part. Of course, the portfolio requires us to do, I think it was 8 to 10 translations. When I had applied, I kind of was thinking maybe the portfolio would be text that we would be given and we would have to translate, and that the text may be common to all students. But the format that actually that is used is allowing us to choose our own texts and pursue our own interests, and that's important preparation for the marketplace.
With the portfolio, you're encouraged to be almost as outlandish as possible, to do things that might not in your wildest dreams be published, or if they are published, they might only be bought by 10 people, but they're very interesting in and of themselves as literary and translation experiments. And then, of course, in the dissertation, you also have that freedom, because while you're told exactly the criteria that you're supposed to fulfill, you're kind of given a framework. How you go about filling that framework is very much up to you.
Yeah, I would say that this course has changed how I look at translation. I've been doing translation work for many years now, not commercially, but in the jobs that I've had with the government. But I never really realized the choices that you have to make as a translator. Like I would just, translating was almost just a reflex, and I would just, I wouldn't necessarily think about who I was writing it for, or maybe I didn't even get at the nuance level of a text. I kind of just maybe took it at a more literal level. So now when I approach a text, I'm thinking about who the audience is. I'm thinking about the context within which it was written. I'm thinking, in my mind, I try to get into the mind of the source text author to, see what was going through his or her mind. So
at one point when I was doing subtitling, I was thinking, should I translate what the character actually said, or what he meant? Or should I find an idiomatic expression in Portuguese that actually matches the idiomatic expression in English? So these are choices that are very hard to do.
I was very fortunate that one of the partner groups with the program works with French and Italian texts, so I was actually able to get a contract with a publisher and begin working on translation as a job. It's very tough, but at the same time very rewarding, and I am finding very much so that while I translate this book professionally, I am using a lot of the skills that were taught to me in the program, such as what sort of discretion to use when making translation choices and the possible repercussions and effects of those choices, the different approaches I can take or I should take depending on the kind of text. All of that was very well covered, very well introduced in the program itself. So I'm finding a lot of the skills we were taught, a lot of the skills we were introduced to, are actually genuinely practical and genuinely help me do my job as a translator now.
Well, I have a lot of interest in pursuing a PhD because I fell in love with research. And I think translation is an amazing area to research on, also because it allows us to do some methodological crosscuts. So it's not just translation. You can talk about translation and film, translation and literature, translation sociology and psychology, and computer science, even technology. So everything is possible when you are researching. So yes, it is a big interest of mine, and I think it's not super explored. Usually people think of translation as related to literature. So it's something that, at least from my point of view in Brazil, it's something that is always attached to some kind of some other area. Whereas in Trinity, at our program, we realized that it can be an area in and of itself, worth exploring, worth talking about. So this is something that, yes, I'm very interested in.
So doing this degree at Trinity has given me the skills, but also the confidence, the belief to change careers. That's why I did the program. I am actually, freelancing on the side as a translator, and I hope to turn that into a full-time career, basically. So I'm going to continue to pursue projects that speak to my personal interests and that I feel that there's an audience for, and at a certain point when I feel I can support myself on translation revenue, I will try to do that.
Oh, and also, if I can just leave a note for prospective students, make the best of it, make friends. Everything is very good at the center. Trinity is great, the readings are awesome, but the heart of it is actually people. So